One day, I will be a warrior.
Well, first of all, I suppose congratulations are in order. Because the the reason I was meant to be talking to you guys is because Cartoon Saloon has been awarded the Fellowship Award at the Manchester Animation Festival, and I guess I just wanted to start off by asking, like, how was coming to Manchester? It's my hometown, so I'm kind of like I've got like a bit of stocks in being a welcoming city to come to, but also just like being awarded this fellowship and how does that kind of feel?
Oh, that's great.
No, it's fantastic. Yeah, I've been to the festival, the Manchester Animation Festival, a couple of times now, and it's always lovely. It's the audience is really really great, and the colleges around Manchester as well are fantastic. So there's a huge kind of student body coming to the festival every year, and that's really lovely to see because then you always get really interesting questions. And if you're on stage, and then if you get to be in the audience, you get to watch great people come as well. So it was really good. Yeah, really lovely.
Yeah, really hospitable. I mean, the crowd was really friendly. I think just some of the questions that we got, I think we all got a little bit emotional. There's a lot of people very, very into the movies, and it's mad when you see young people who we've been doing this, nearly 26 years now, and and then when you get out to meet people, sometimes you forget that some people were really quite young when they first saw Secret of Kells or Focus. It meant so much to them. There was one fan that had, gosh, she had badges of everything on her, and she was so enthusiastic and said some really lovely things. I think on the way out to me, and Tom was like, "Oh, that's lovely.
Mm.
Yeah. Oh, you really mean a lot to me. It changed my life." And I was like, "Oh, thanks so much for saying. It's lovely."
Well, I was actually going to discuss this actually. I'll bring it up now. Well, I remember the first Cartoon Saloon film I watched, and when I watched it was Wolfwalkers at London Film Festival back in 2020. I actually interviewed Tom, yourself, and Ross at the
Oh
time,
yeah.
um, which was just amazing. And I just remember being absolutely entranced by it and being like, right, I have to watch everything that these guys have ever made now. And I just kind of wanted to say, like, how does it feel? You kind of touched on it a little bit there, but how does it feel that no matter whether they're like older fans or, people who are just discovering Cartoon Saloon, like, how does it feel that to have like that impact on audiences?
It's a bit surreal. I think we're still catching up to the impact that we've had. We're starting to understand, as Paul says, when you meet young people that are studying animation, but that were inspired to study it because of our films and stuff. It's quite touching. So yeah, it seems like an honor, and also it's a little bit of pressure. We want to make sure we continue to do stuff to the same standard, so it makes us, work even harder on what we're doing now, I suppose, because we want to keep the standard up.
Mhm. Yeah, the
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. There, it's very yeah, because it takes so long to make an animated movie, and you don't often get a chance to spend a lot of time with the people who watch them. So it's a great excuse, any excuse to get to talk to people who actually have watched them. And then there's such big gaps between the movies as well. We sort of make one, you go out for a bit, and then you put your head under over here in Kilkenny again. You work for ages on something else, and you pop up for a bit, and you're down again. So it's lovely. The opportunities like that. And I'm sorry I didn't. I still have the award at home. I should bring it into the studio. I still have it sitting there because it is
Yeah,
a beautiful
Paul.
award.
Yeah.
I just have it on that.
Ours too.
Yeah, yeah, no, I just might keep it there. So I was the one brought it home. I think I had trouble getting through security. They thought it was some kind of bomb. It's this beautiful, it was a beautiful metal thing from
B,
McKinnon and Saunders, a
like a
B,
B. Yeah, it was good.
like a
Oh, of
maquette.
course.
It's
Yeah.
really lovely. I think all the awards, the Manchester Film Festival awards, kind of have that design, which it really
Yeah.
gorgeous. It looks like a stop motion model in metal, but obviously also look like some kind of time release bomb in my
Put the
suitcase.
B on it. Yeah.
That's not necessarily such a good thing. But
No, no, it was grand. I just had to say, no, it's fine, it's a word. He went, oh, okay, grand. Yeah.
right, well, I kind of wanted to go back in time a bit, go back to before Cartoon Saloon was founded. Um, And I remember like when I was younger, there's one cinema trip that I always remember, and it was going to watch Wallace and Gromit: Curse of the Were-Rabbit with my auntie and uncle, and I just remember it absolutely changing my life. And I wanted to ask you guys if there was like a specific, it doesn't have to be animated, but if it's animated, that'd be great. Film that kind of drove you onto this path.
For me, for sure, it was when I was about 8 or 9. I saw The Secret of Nim on VHS at a birthday party. It was a friend's birthday party, and they put the movie on for the younger kids. And I ended up sitting down with the younger kids. And I remember my friends going, "Ah, he's watching the cartoon with the younger kids." But I really loved The Secret. I was sucked into The Secret of Nim. It was so immersive and so beautiful. And I still love that movie, actually. I still think it has a lot. The very first Don Bluth movie was really great. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I think for me it was the Wizard of Oz actually. I also love Curse of the Were-Rabbit, though it continues to be one of my favorite films. I always
Yeah.
whenever I have to say in an hour's time, I always say in an hour. But yeah, it's such a fantastic comedy and so beautiful. Yeah, The Wizard of Oz. I think it's probably the last film that I watched where I wasn't aware that strange kind of, set feeling. I didn't know what it was. I thought there were places that you could go that kind of felt and looked like, matte painting backdrops, that there was places in the world that you could go that kind of looked like that. And I was looking forward to kind of going to some places like that at some point in my life. And then not long after watching The Wizard of Oz, I think for the first time, um, realizing that it wasn't actually, it was like a set. It was
Movie
like
magic.
a theater play. Yeah, and it wasn't a magic, real place or anything like that. So yeah, I lost a little bit of magic after that, kind of realizing that, the power of production design and cinematography and, you know, uh,
I think there were places in Kansas that were all in black and white.
yeah. Well, no, that's another story. I grew up with a black and white TV, so
Oh, you
so
didn't realize the
I didn't
Wizard of
even
Oz
see the
turned.
distribution. So, yeah.
And I think early on I saw watching TV. I randomly came across Blade Runner and then Close Encounters. Those kind of movies, big impact. And then I watched a lot of Channel 4 because we were one look. Most of our households in where I grew up in the West of Ireland, some of us didn't have the BBC but we did have BBC and Channel 4. So all those animated shorts at the end in the evening on Channel 4 and so actually Aardman was a big one. I
Yeah.
think Peter did these ones that were all, when they were capturing live voices
Or the
and then
creature comforts
animating to
kind of thing.
like Creature Comforts, but there was one before, I think,
Even
in a job
before,
center.
yeah.
In a
Yeah.
job center, it was just random talking and animated. And I was like, God, that's really amazing because it felt like real, it was like real voices. And then the animation on top of that, but interpreted through claymation, was like that's really adds a sort of reality to it or a kind of like this authenticity to it or something. And then
Yeah.
Creature spawned out of that. And then Akira, I remember seeing on TV as well, probably around when I was young in Channel 4 as well. Big impact because the animation, it looked like a moving comic book, like and really well. And it was so amazing, kind of it wasn't necessarily for kids. It was um it was just this great sci-fi. It was just quite a good science fiction film. But anybody could watch it, or yeah, it's for all age groups really.
Saw it on
Also mad.
TV.
Yeah. Mm.
That was on TV,
I
Akira.
saw, I saw it probably on Channel 4 or something like that, or BBC. Kira, yeah, first. Yeah. And I don't know what version of it was, whether it was dubbed or subtitled. I
I
think,
first saw Akira on VHS.
yeah, maybe it
There
was VHS.
was an influx of anime VHS in the 90s.
Yeah, it's great.
Well, moving on, what do you think it is about animation that like entices you into the craft so much, as opposed to like live action, for example?
Oh, it's an interesting one. Like lots of times, filmmakers, animation people, they kind of when they're coming up with a project, or they kind of say like, why animate? Like, why does it need to be animation? And that's a big thing for a lot of people when they're coming at a project. But I don't know. I don't really see it that way, to be honest, because I think just I suppose most especially hand-drawn animation, by virtue of the fact that you're drawing something, it's quite subjective, and you're showing a particular view of that, and whether that's the way you draw a character or a setting or whatever, it takes the audience to a different place. They already have taken a more imaginative leap, I think, in a way than they might do with live action. I think theater does something similar as well. I just think it's pure magic when you can like go to theater and have like a whole heap of people dressed in blue and say, okay, they're water, and have them move together, and then you could drown somebody in that water, and make people, you could make people cry with it because they've taken an extra leap. Whereas if you see it in live action and you see that person drowning in water, you might actually emotionally step back a little bit and say, okay, I think I know what's going to happen here, so I just need to protect myself a little bit more. And there's something different that happens when you distill something through, really strong production design, or like really, like the animator's hand, that lets you leap a little bit further as an audience member, I think, with it. And so I think, sometimes the most interesting animated films or shorts or whatever, like are really mundane things, but handled in a way that that you're watching this through the lens of somebody who's observed life very carefully and is a compassionate, thinker, and that's how they approach a subject. So I don't think it matters what you're animating. In fact, like I said, sometimes really mundane stuff can be really, really interesting.
I saw a good example, I won't say which short it was because I'm not going to remember the title, but we're all watching a lot of shorts at the moment because, it's award season. So we get a lot of screeners and we're looking at screeners. And gosh, I just love the shorts every year. Sometimes you see something that's like just pure animation. That's just like telling a story. That's like, there's a beautiful one. So I should really remember the name. I think it's like a set with a young girl traveling from Czechoslovakia into Belgium or something, and it's just the observation of this little girl on a bus and how she sees the adults as kind of these different animals and monsters. But it's just a story of a kid trying to get from one country to the next on a bus on her own, and the kind of little scaredy fear you might feel. But it really uses like drawing illustration. Sometimes she's really tiny and it doesn't really matter. She's like tiny compared to the rest of the world, and she's in under the seat, and sometimes she's quite big. And it's just that kind of abstraction and expression, that just to tell the story of what it's feeling like, I think can only be handled sometimes in animation. You get away with it, whereas you try in live action, maybe you have to do a little more trickery with the camera, or the person's imagination once they see a real person has to leap a little more. Whereas a drawing, you can sort of put your own imagination into a little bit. You always say that a bit too, Nora. But like you're going into the space, you're going into a drawing space. So when you're watching it, this has been created, and so yeah, it's nice to try to. It's a different way of telling stories. Um, and we all just like drawing, I think, as well, because we came at it from drawing. So illustration, cartoon, and comic books, and that we all came from animation school. So that's how we learned to do it in a way, you know.
Yeah, just sorry. Yeah, that kind of just freedom of expression, the fact that you can kind of just go a bit further than you maybe can with live action.
Hmm. Yeah. And those short films sometimes are sometimes the best expression of it because they have this freedom. It's hard and we try that in our feature films, is to bring that level of 2D freedom into storytelling in there as well.
Yeah, well, you mentioned that. That's one thing that Cartoon Saloon that you kind of pride yourselves on, is the fact that you have the hand-drawn 2D style of animation where, a lot of the bigger animation studios, or the majority of them, kind of using the computer-generated 3D style of animation. And I just wanted to ask actually, like, what is it about the 2D animation that kind of, and the hand-drawn stuff that kind of keeps you with that and not wanting to kind of move into using computer generated animation?
Well, we
There's
do
a
use it a bit as a tool. Yeah. Sorry, go on,
Yeah.
Tom.
Oh, I think the look of hand drawn, which is what we try and keep, even if we use bits of 3D here and there as a tool and stuff like that. I think the look is fairly timeless. It has a timelessness to it, and you also have the whole language of painting and drawing, which is thousands of years old that you can use. That we're always exploring, trying to push a bit further, because I think that's a language to itself.
Mm.
Yeah.
And we do use 3D tools at times in our features. We just make sure that they really blend in and work well with the hand-drawn animation. But yeah, sometimes for crowds or for vehicles and things like that, we do use. So we're not sticking rigidly to paper. We'll use technology and use tools, but just making sure that the artist's hand is always kind of front and central, and that's what you use technology to support, the artist's hand. And I mean, again, like we're talking about magic of animation and all of that. Like we all love watching people draw as well, right? There's something that really brings you into a lovely space. So when you're seeing a series of those drawings at like whatever 12 drawings per second, it's just so beautiful. And then as Tom says, yes, the timelessness of it. The Secret of Kells was made over 20, how long, when well, that was released? 20,
2009.
yeah, 2009, but we started working on it, what, 2004 or 5,
Exactly.
20 years ago. Yeah. So that would be very, very dated if what that cost about 6 million or something like that to make, or less than 6 million. So if we had spent 6 million on 3D animation at the time, the visual results would be very, very different than what we did. I think it does look very, very timeless.
And it does still sit beside the other two, like Wolfwalkers and Song of the Sea. They all sort of
Yeah.
fit beside each other. They don't have they don't have an expiration date on them.
Mm.
Well, moving on to your filmography, which is absolutely incredible, and I feel like there's a nice kind of split between the films that you've done. And when you mentioned that there, Tom, the Irish folklore trilogy, and I just wanted to touch on that a little bit, and just if you guys could kind of talk about how it feels to be being a studio that is based in Ireland, um, how it feels to be able to tell those kinds of stories on the platform that you guys have.
Yeah, it was something that I suppose we stumbled into. We had the idea early on that we wanted to sort of tell something original using Irish history and folklore and Irish art as well as inspiration. And then after Secret of Kells and Song of the Sea and Wolfwalkers, we kind of realized we had a sort of spiritual trilogy, which was always, in my mind, I thought was a nice number to have the three of them, that they all sort of fit together and speak to each other and stuff. Yeah, it's great that they're all out there. I love that there's a box set. I'm so glad there's still physical media and you can buy a box set of the three DVDs and three Blu-rays. Because that was what I had in mind at the very beginning when we were talking about doing three of them. We never knew we'd get three made, but we didn't even think we'd get the first one made. So it's a mini miracle, I feel, getting them all three of them made and getting them all out there. And yeah, very proud of it. I'm looking at trilogy themed beer on my desk here.
Who made that?
Oh, I was the artist in residence
Oh, wow.
in Viborg for the animation festival in Viborg, and every year they ask the artists in residence to design three beer labels, and I rather lazily used the trilogy for my three designs.
Well, not lazily at all. That is perfect. It completely fits.
It was fun. It was fun, yeah. But it says on the side artist Tomm Moore, which is a little unfair. Many talented artists that worked on those films.
So, and then kind of the other half of your filmography, I mean, one of them is yet to come out yet, and maybe we'll discuss that in a little bit. But the other one's book adaptations, and I kind of wanted to ask how you approach making films that are adapted from an already existing story, and also on top of that, like taking, or do you like take into account the illustrations that already exist for those stories and kind of develop them with your style, or like what kind of dance do you do with that?
Yeah, I mean, their adaptations can be difficult because you want to make sure that you keep the spirit of what is in the books. You want to translate that into film, but then at the same time you can't be kind of slavishly trying to hit everything that's in a book, because they're just two completely different mediums, and your 90 minutes of film are something that you really need to kind of like structure well, and in a very different way to the way a book is. It's interesting with So My Father's Dragon, which was released onto Netflix in 2022, is an adaptation of a book by Ruth Giles that was first published in the late 1940s. And one of the first things I thought, actually, when we were looking at the book, it's very beautiful, and the illustrations are really these beautiful kind of pencil, very rich in pattern illustrations. But the cover of the book has the dragon, who's like blue and yellow, very primary, very bright colors, which is perfect if you're walking into a bookshop and you're looking at a bookshelf and you see this, very bright, two primary colors coming at you. But for a film scene where you need that character to walk in and out of out of the screen, uh, alongside a boy who, would not be completely overwhelming and overpowering everything else, you've quite a bit of work to do. So there are challenges adapting or translating design that works in book form for the film. So you kind of end up distilling down again and seeing, okay, well, what's really important about this dragon. And so the really like high saturation of the colors that we use in the book covers for the dragon were taken down quite significantly for the film. And Anya McGuinness, the art director, did a really great job just making sure that the dragon sat into all of the different, very fantastical, very magical environments that the dragon needed to kind of journey through in the film. So yeah, they have their challenges. You try, and I think it was it Henry Selick said that you kind of take them apart, and then kind of you take the books apart, and then you make something that kind of smells like the book, but isn't it? I think that's a really nice way of putting it. With The Breadwinner, then, and that was released back in 2017. That was a different matter because it was kind of based on historical truths, and actually very relevant ones to this day. It's based on the Deborah Ellis's book, which was published in the late 90s, about a young girl, a novel about a young girl growing up in Afghanistan and the challenges that she faces under the Taliban regime there, without access to education, or even the ability to go outside her front door without a male relative accompanying her. And that was again one that we had to take great care with, because the political situation in Afghanistan was changing at the time when we were making the film, and we wanted to make sure that we did something that was reflective, and that it was. But again, like, animation is such a really good medium for handling difficult subject matters like that. And I think it did that well, and again in a kind of a timeless way. There are ways of layering story with animation, or in particular, that work really well. So yeah, the adaptations can be challenging, but again, if your goal is to make that 90 minutes, that film, as engrossing as you can, and not be too slavish to the subject matter, but try to honor it as best you can, I think then that's how you try to, or we certainly try to handle adaptations.
Wonderful. So, kind of all together, I feel that these films kind of discuss, like, and kind of talk about the importance of stories and kind of telling stories. And I just kind of wanted to ask, how important is that theme for you guys as a kind of studio to tell?
Take that.
Hmm?
Who wants to take that one?
Hey,
Sorry, was that
I missed this. I missed the theme, Alex, when you said what
Oh,
Stories.
Yes, it's just stories. So like the importance of stories and kind of that.
Yeah, I think it's how we make sense of the world. It's how
Mm.
we all make sense of life and make sense of the world, and definitely became a theme. It's funny. I think we hit upon it in Song of the Sea. Um, the stories were that the mum had told the little boy were part of how he made sense of the world, and it was kind of through his lens that we showed the whole movie. And those stories were, I think, constantly need to be reimagined. Like the folk tales that we use for the trilogy, those are stories that have been told for thousands of years, and so they all have a nugget of truth in them that keeps them going, that keeps people telling them again and again. And so I feel like our version of them is just, it's like a relay. We take it from the last people who said it, and we tell the story again with our movies, and then the next people will tell the story their way, whatever way is relevant for them. So you're just, as a storyteller, it's like the oral tradition, you're retelling the story for the audience today, but it will be retold again by someone else in the future.
Yeah. Sure. It's like when I was younger, I only started thinking about this there recently, is I'd sort of forgotten that in my parents' house they used to have parties maybe every month or so where everybody'd come around. There might be a piano, somebody would do something. It's a bit lost these days, this kind of a party where everybody did sang a song. But also, there was one particular brilliant storyteller, Barry Feely, who sadly passed away there recently. He'd get up and he'd just tell a stream of stories from around Boyle. And they were so hilarious. It was the same story every time he came, but everybody laughed at the same time. So he was basically telling the same story. It's like rewatching a movie. But he was so good at it, at just like telling the yarn. Everybody would laugh. That was his piece. And then you go into pubs, and there's people playing music. Sometimes they sing a song is a story, and somebody tells a joke. So it's like, I mean, we really crave it. I mean, I think it's a thing in Ireland, maybe, that it is something that was continued orally for many, many years, down through the generations in people's houses. There was a kind of tradition of like playing music, telling stories, that even my parents' generation remembers. And maybe it's being lost a tiny bit, but actually I see it renewed with new generations all the time. Sometimes in pubs, we'll still see loads of young people playing music, and the oral storytelling maybe is not so much, but maybe it can get a revival. I don't know. But basically, it's taken over in different ways because now kids are online. They're doing YouTube. They're creating videos there. There's also artists online who really putting their stuff up online. So it's a different type of community. They're putting it out to their followers and they're drawing, and people are doing so much. They've so much access to like audiences and different people now. I just kind of maybe it's great online and all, but I kind of maybe part of that is also community, and part of the going into the cinema was also going in and watching a story together and feeling the reaction from the story, and like what plays. And so I think drama and plays, and hopefully the shared audience experience won't go away. Like going to see a singer, like going to see a singer-songwriter even, or a musician, a concert, and they'll tell a story about the song beforehand. I love all that kind of stuff. So people hopefully will still crave that community, that like, receiving the story as a group, as an audience.
Stories are some kind of order to the chaos as well. And we're all storytellers. Like, you can have an absolutely chaotic, horrendous day. And if you've somebody, that asks you, how was your day? In the evening, you start to order it and distill it and say the important things, and then let go of the rest. And that's storytelling too. We're all storytelling all of the time. But yeah, they're survival tools, and communication tools, how to survive from one person to another, from one generation to the other. And yeah, and I think Paul's right. They do evolve, and they are evolving, and maybe becoming a little bit more democratic, and that like everyone's getting to tell their stories now. You can just like, say what you want, say whatever, puts up whatever order you want on something, and put it out there, and maybe connect with somebody who needs to hear it, maybe nowhere near you. So yeah, it's interesting. All right.
Well, thank you very much for that. That amazing answers. Finally, and I mean, I could talk to you guys all day, like personally. Um, But finally, I just wanted to touch. You've obviously got a new project in the works, and I don't imagine you can tell me lots. But is there anything that you can say about your new film, Julian?
Well, it's being directed by Louise Bagnall, who is an amazing filmmaker. She was Oscar nominated for her short film Late Afternoon about 5 years ago. And Julian is based on a book by Jessica Love, who's a writer based in New York. She wrote a beautiful children's book called Julian is a Mermaid. And Louise is right now doing the sound mix in Toronto and the film grade. So we're really just nearly there with it. So it'll be released next year. It's a beautiful, gentle, gorgeous story about a young boy and his relationship with his grandmother and his kind of journey of self-discovery. It's really magical and really, really gorgeous. And I can't wait, yeah, for audiences to see it next year.
Mhm.
Well, amazing. Thank you so much, guys. It's been honestly an absolute pleasure, and I love your work so much. And I hope that you continue to do it for many, many years to come, because I will be sat in that cinema or on the couch, wherever it may be released, and watching them. So thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, Alex.
Thanks, Alex.
Thanks, Alex. Lovely chatting with you.
Thank
All
you.
right, bye-bye.
See you later.